The next section we'll talk about are our logical operators or the logical formulas. These logical conditions are anything related to greater than, less than, equals, not equal to something, and we'll also talk about if statements and nested if statements in this section. In our database, I'm now looking back at the tasks table in our social posts view. In this view, one of the logical statements we can say is if the post length is less than 240 characters, then this post can be shared on Twitter. Inside a formula field, we can create that using a if statement. I'm creating a new field called Can We Post This Tweet? Starting first with the if statement. Because whether or not we can post this tweet depends on the length of the post itself, we need to compare the length of the post copy to the 280 limit. In my formula, I've written if the length of the post is smaller than 280, then my post can be posted. And if that's not the case, after the second comma, then I'm going to say it cannot be posted. So the first green section is if the condition is true, which is the post is less than 280, and the second condition is if it's false, which can't be posted. So I'll create this, and you can see that if the character length is 25, it can be posted. Otherwise, we can't post it. I've adjusted the second record to be under 280, and now our column says it can be posted. We just made this formula, but I wish it could be as easy. There are several steps if you did actually want to create this kind of functionality that you need to do. The first being, when we actually created the character count, we said less than 280, which isn't quite precise because the 280 is a lesser than or equal to. So what you can do here is change the formula to less than or equal to. Whoops, I just realized I made a spelling error there and wrote posted wrong. But after I've changed my second record to be exactly 280, now we can see that this is still can be posted. And if we add an additional letter at the end of that post, then it cannot be posted. One of the things I'll caution you from actually building out this kind of functionality is that emojis in Twitter count as 2 characters. So if you wanted to actually use this feature, you might want to make sure that your 280, your character max position has a little bit of buffer. So in my case, I might change it to 270. And that would just give you a little bit of room for those emojis. And the reason why we wanted to give a little room is because Airtable doesn't count the emojis as 2 characters, even though Twitter does. It would be great if real life was that simple, but of course it's not. Sometimes our posts might actually be in progress and someone's still working on it and might be still going through internal approvals. So the status field in a particular task will also matter. Now I've got my task status field showing on my view as well, because most likely the post will need to be under the character limit and be completed before we can actually post it. I've just updated my test data a little bit. I've created a couple more tweet records, and I've put in the task status. Now, one of the things that we'll want to adjust in our formula is to make sure anything that's in progress can't be posted, but anything that's completed can be posted. In addition to that, we also still have to factor in the length of the post copy. So here we're going to introduce a new logical condition called the AND function. I'm going to add an AND function within my if statement as part of the condition. You can see that the AND function has its own opening and closing brackets as well. And every single condition inside of the AND function must be met for the true condition to occur. My first AND condition is the same. The character limit must be under 270. My second condition is that the task status must equal completed. After I've added in the AND condition, you can see that my tweet 3 and 4 can be posted because they're both under 270 characters and also have been marked as completed. Whereas the first 2 tasks that are in progress, they might still need some attention from the internal team, so those cannot be posted. One additional scenario that I'll show is adding additional text to the post copy such that it's over the character limit. And now, even though my record is completed, it still cannot be posted because the post is too long. Having these if statements creates a more restrictive condition so that your data can have better data integrity. Next, we want to explain the concept of a nested if statement because they're really helpful in getting your data to be more nuanced using a formula. We'll continue with the example around can someone post this tweet. You can see that my if statement here is also getting a little bit complicated. So instead of editing on top of this formula, I'm actually going to create a brand new field. Over here, I'll duplicate the field and name it v2. One of the things I didn't appreciate about this formula is even when the post copy was blank, it still showed cannot post. But it could be that the task itself is a graphic design task and had nothing to do with social media. And therefore, the post copy or is this ready to post just isn't relevant. What we can do here is say, if the post copy is blank, then don't display anything. And the equal sign is one easy one to introduce, but I actually want to introduce to you the not equal sign. When you want to say not equal to in a formula, you will always put the exclamation mark in front of the equal, and that means not equal. In this case, we're saying if the post copy is not equal to blank, then go through and tell me in this nested if statement if the post can be posted. But if it is blank, then I just want it to display nothing. In which case, I'll put blank at the end of my initial if statement and close the bracket. So this is the entire formula. If the post copy is not blank, then go through the entire if statement that's nested in here to check if the post can be posted. And if it is blank, then put in nothing. And if the post copy is empty, then make sure the if statement is blank. And sometimes you'll also forget a comma. So I've forgotten a comma in this case, I've just added it in. After we've done that, you can see everything from task 5 onwards does not have a status as to whether or not the post can be shared. In certain cases, you will also want to use the OR function instead of the AND function. Both of those can be used alone in formulas or inside of an if statement. We most commonly see them inside of if statements, so you might say, if a column is this and another column is that, then do something. Or you could say, if a column is this, or another column is that, then do something. So you can play around with those conditions and see what works best for your team. The next category of formulas are our numerical formulas. These are anything related to your typical math calculator functionality, like your add, subtract, multiply, divide, as well as some max and mins and averages. They're really helpful formulas to summarize your data, and we'll go through them together. To look at the number functions, I think we're going to switch gears a little bit and look at the time logs and tasks tables primarily. Earlier, when we were looking at the field types, we were looking at roll-up fields that sum together the tasks and their time logs. As a refresher, you can see this roll-up field from the time logs table and how we've summed together the hours in the time logs. That got us this information here. Another question you might want answered is what task in a project took the longest and the shortest? Now I'm going to head over to our projects table to create a new view. I'm going to call that view time logs. After I've created a view, I'm going to roll up the sum of the hours again. Here you can see the sum of my hours that I've spent on the social media project. In addition to the sum roll-up field, we can also roll up using a max, a min, and an average. When you're creating similar fields, you don't have to configure them from scratch. You can simply duplicate the field. Here you can see the highest amount of hours spent on a task is 8 hours and 40 minutes. You can also duplicate this field for the minimum. And the minimum amount of time you spent on a task was 1 hour. Just for the sake of demonstration, I'll also create a field for the average number of hours. And one thing I forgot was that average is not shorthanded. With AVG, you do have to type out the full word average. And there we go. I will say, generally speaking, when you're trying to calculate averages, it's probably based on a price of some sort or the size of the budget in terms of dollar value, and rarely in terms of hours. When it comes to the numeric functions inside of Airtable, I think looking at the budget numbers are a great example. We're going to create a view called budget. So far in our database, we've only added in the field called estimated budget. Something else we'll want to do is add in the actual revenue and cost. And let's say the actual revenue was $3,000 and the actual cost was $1,700. Now we can build in some numeric functions. You can get actual profit, or at least operating profit, from the actual revenue subtracted by the actual cost. One of the most common things we see in our work is clients don't have an idea of their project level profitability. So if you can capture all of your estimated costs and revenue and your actual costs and revenue, then you can get estimated versus actual profit. And over time, as you do more projects and collect more data, this will also help your estimating team figure out where you're miscalculating the estimate and which projects are most profitable. It provides a lot of deep insights into analysis once you have that data collected, so it's a really great idea to start building in. Thanks for investing in your own knowledge base. I'm Cherry Yang, the founder of Claribase. We're going to be releasing our flagship course, Airtable Mastery, for free. In the course, you can find over 100 videos on topics like design, integration, automations, and interfaces. It's perfect for the Airtable champion who wants to build their database right the first time. You can sign up for the course at the link down below.